Hey guys, this is Simon with Caddis Fly Shop and Oregon Fly Fishing Blog, and I'm showing you today how to make sense of all this. As a newer tyer, this was really confusing to me. A lot of people have a lot of questions about what feathers do I use for what? What's the difference between a saddle and a cape? Or what is CDL, or why hen, why rooster? And so I'm going to try to make this fairly clear in a pretty quick video for you. So right now we're just going through all the whiting stuff. We may do a separate video in the future on like miscellaneous feathers and what to use them for. But starting with the rooster stuff, your rooster fibers have more stiff barbules, meaning the little part that makes the fly float is the barbule, and that's what this is when you bend it. That's actually what holds your fly up with the surface tension, and roosters have more stiff barbules and they don't stick together like a hen does. We'll get to that later. So rooster stuff generally is always for dry flies. You can also use it sometimes for large streamers, but we're gonna go slow here and start with the dry fly side of things. So a rooster or dry fly feathers come in two different styles. It comes in what's called a cape or a saddle right here, and those are from different parts of the birds, and you buy them for different things. If you're a new tyer, I recommend you buy one of these. This is called a cape, and it's because there's a lot of different sizes of feather within this cape right here. Up here you have really tiny ones that you would use on a midge, and then down here you have real big ones that you can use on like a big stimulator, and then some of these under feathers you can actually use on big streamers or buggers and things. So I'll show you how to size that out, but for your own knowledge, because I like to kind of learn where things come from, this is a real whiting bird right here, and I'm going to show you the different parts. So what we were just looking at, the cape right here, this comes from this kind of neck right here. So from here, the crown of the head, down the back to right where it hits the flat back, that's the cape right there. You can see this is the cape where they cut it off, and then this is the saddle. And if you look, if you were to put a saddle on this chicken, it sits right here. And so you can see the saddle's feathers are way longer, and now I'm going to show you what's different about the saddle. So these are shorter, as you can see on the cape. These are real short up here. The good thing is when you're tying a really tiny fly, you need just a little bit of feather. And so down here, these longer ones are bigger, and so they're good for larger flies. The nice thing about a cape is you get a wide variety of different sizes. The saddle, on the other hand, I wasn't going to open this, but I will open it for you guys and show you. The saddle, on the other hand, this is really long fibers like this, and they're all the same size. That's the kicker. So, for example, this saddle right here, when I look at it, it just screams to me summer PMDs, pale morning duns, or you know, Cahills, whatever you want to call them. This is what I think. You know, if I know I'm going to tie a ton of these, I'm going to get something like this. If I'm going to tie stuff of this color, but a lot of different sizes, then I'd want a cape. And so for that reason, if you're a new tyer, this cape will allow you to do a whole lot more than this specific saddle. If you're a production tyer, you wouldn't even be finding this video, so it's not important, but this is what the production tyers buy. You know, if someone's tying, 200 of one type of fly, they're going to buy something like this. Something I'll show you real quick is just for a little bit of reference. On this brindle shoe right here, or like this is just kind of like a parachute pattern right here, this could use either a saddle or a cape. The cape would have to be a larger size, or you would pick from the lower end of this cape right here. The same goes for an elk hair caddis. It uses elk hair obviously on the top, but on an elk hair caddis there's a rooster feather palmered in there to help it float better. So for a lot of your very traditional dry flies, they do use this. So this is something that if you start trying dry flies at some point, you will likely end up with some of these feathers. And then over here, you have a little tiny Griffiths knot. It's okay if you don't really see it up close, but you can tell for scale, sometimes you need to tie something really little like this, and that's when this cape would come in. Another thing I'm going to show you guys is how to size this, and this is important when you're buying one. So if you're in the shop, you can ask us. We have hackle gauges here. This one has a hackle, bead, and hook gauge on it. It's from Hairline. This is the best one that is out right now. It's what I personally use. If I mix up a bunch of my beads, I can resize them. I can check hook size. But the most important part and the feature I use the most is this hackle gauge. And so how you use this is there's a little nub right here, and you take a feather and you wrap it around that nub, and however long the fibers are, it tells you what size this is and what size hook to use it on. So when I go through this, I probably have 22, size 22 up here, all the way down to probably like size 6 or 4 down here, and that's fine, that's what you want. On this one, I'm not going to do it just for sake of time, but I could pull most of these, and I would guess they're all kind of the same size. Like this saddle is like 16, and I would guess that the variation in this is probably just size 12, 14, 16. Maybe there's a couple of 18s, so there's a lot less of a size range on this, and sometimes that's just what you want. So that covers dry flies. Now we're going to go on to and rooster feathers. Now we're going to go on to hen. So hen feathers have a different some different properties that are desirable more for streamers. So the fibers will stick together, which is what we call webbiness, and that's fine for when you're using a streamer because it's going to be wet. If you try to use that on a dry fly, it's going to stick together and it is going to sink your fly. You can tell when I bend this, if I were to size it down here, see how these feathers stick together? That's called webbiness, and that is a fine trait if you're tying a streamer and you want it to move around like this in the water with a lot of action, perfectly fine. But for a dry fly, I mean, it's just not going to work. You're not going to have those stiff fibers to suspend it on the water surface. So this is a hen saddle. It goes the same way, that these are all similar size and they're a little bit longer. And then we have the hen hackle, or this is the hen cape, and this is much smaller. Hen cape, the most famous fly with it is a prince nymph in brown. I grabbed a gray one just so they would match, but this is a hen cape. You can maybe also use a hen saddle if some of the feathers are smaller, depending on how big the bird is. But this is a very important, you know, this has been a long time coming in this association with hen feathers and the prince nymph. The other thing that you can use it for is stuff like this. Here's like a little crawfish pattern for bass or carp. For claws, it's very popular to use hen feathers for something like that, because they kind of stick together and they're not going to open up, and they throw a wide profile so it looks like claws. In the same line of thought, if you're tying a sculpin and you need large fins, because sculpins have large fins that protrude, you can use hen feathers for that because they stick together. And then the last thing is if you want a palmer, you know, like a collar around something, hen works great for that too. So hen for stuff underwater, rooster for stuff on top. They both come in cape and saddle. Next we'll go into, real quickly we'll cover CDL. CDL is coq de leon. It's a different type of bird entirely. It has very, very fine fibers. I suppose you could use it for a bugger, but most commonly what it's used for is tails on nymphs. It's very, very thin, and it seems delicate, but it is very, very strong. So on like perdigons and Euro-nymphs of that nature, CDL is used for the tail. It seems really delicate, but it actually can bend a whole lot, so it doesn't break. Makes it for a longer lasting alternative to pheasant tail. So this comes normally in small packs because you don't use a whole lot of it. However, sometimes you do see capes. I don't know if I've ever seen a saddle, but I'm sure they have them. Next we'll jump over into these bugger packs from Whiting. I believe these are from a Rooster. They definitely are, and that comes from kind of back like the under part of this cape, that where it gets too big to really use for where it gets too big to use for dry flies. This is what we use for woolly buggers. It's kind of the same idea where it's not a webby hackle at all. You can see there's all these spaces between the fibers. They are not sticking together. That's what you want on a bugger. That's also, you'll use these bugger packs for stuff like big saltwater flies, big peacock bass flies, stuff like this. Intruders use them. Saltwater crabs use them for claws sometimes. Tarpon roach uses it. Stuff like that. And so there's a little bit of overlap here with hen. Like this specific fly right here looks like it kind of uses more hen than rooster, but you get the idea. On those real long feathers, that's what you use for streamers. Something short and stubby doesn't make a good tail. Finishing up here, we have chickaboo, which is kind of the butt feathers. They're real soft. They're great for palmering a collar, or wrapping a hackle around something to add a lot of pulsation. So you can use them for tails of small streamers, or to wrap a small collar. That comes from the butt right here. There's all sorts of soft feathers down here on any bird, and that's where those come from. And this is a Brahma hen. So it's a different type of hen. It's very small, as you can see. That's the whole back and butt where the chickaboo comes from, you can see. And this is real good for small streamers and all sorts of stuff like that. So hopefully that helped things make sense. If you have any additional questions, feel free to comment down below, or you can message us on Instagram. You can come ask us in the shop. You can call us, ask us any questions. But hopefully this helps make sense. There's all sorts of different feathers for different things. We will likely do other videos in the future helping to make sense of all the materials. You can get all this stuff and more in store at Caddis Fly Shop or online at caddisflyshop.com. Thanks.